universe liked to explain to me why I was calling Sophie Baek, fully prepared to continue that bit for the next 2 years, even if the show had ended up keeping the name Sophie Beckett, simply because I love to commit to the bit. And then Netflix, 84 years late, finally announced Yerin Ha as Sophie with the name change, Sophie Baek. And then I was also calling Araminta Joanne, and threw some not so thinly veiled shade about some other famous person with that name, only for them to go and cast an actress from the Harrison Pentagram films to play that character in season 4. Oh, I'm about to act up.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel I like to talk about entertainment media. If you follow me on Twitter, you will already know that I was out when this news about Bridgerton season 4 dropped, the casting for Sophie's stepfamily, new photo shoot of Yerin and Luke Thompson, new interview quotes. Let me give you a slightly more detailed description of what happened. I was being driven to another city for a dentist appointment. Shout out to my patrons. Your contributions will be going towards my dental bill. And it was too early for me. I am not a morning person. I wanted to take a nap in the car. But then I had this gut feeling that I should check my email. And what do I see in my inbox? Less than 10 minutes prior, I had received the press email from Netflix with all of this breaking news. Bridgerton season 4 is now in production, casting announcements for Sophie's stepfamily, and so on and so forth. So I began posting away on my YouTube community tab, on my Twitter, Instagram. The Asians have rolled up. We're here. Shogun just swept the Emmys, and we're not going anywhere except up, and away, web!
Up, and away, web!
I haven't actually seen Shogun yet, just because I don't watch much television nowadays until it's had enough time to build up to enough of a level that gives me a real reason to watch it. I just don't want to get invested in anything new unless I know whether or not it's good, and also whether or not it's going to get prematurely canceled. But actually, when I was back in the motherland this year, I had a family member telling me that I should watch Shogun, which was a pleasant surprise for me to hear because I wasn't aware that this show was being distributed internationally like that, but I love to hear it. For this video, I thought that I would go through some of the standout talking points for me specifically and share some preliminary thoughts on this latest wave of news. We can, of course, circle back to anything that I don't get to covering in this video because I already have a lot of other season 4 videos on my to-do list that will fill the next 2 years, so just chime in the comments if there's anything else that you have questions about my opinions on, and depending on what those things are, perhaps I will add some of those to a future season 4 video. Or videos. I mostly have positive thoughts, and I want that to be the majority of this video, so I will get some of the less positive talking points quickly out of the way first. As a member of the Eastern branch of the Pan-Asian Coalition, I hereby declare that we stand in solidarity with the Southern branch and demand that Katani Sharma be in season 4, alongside her clingy wife guy husband, Anthony, sniffing your lilies in public, Bridgerton. At least we know that we will have Jonathan Bailey back. How could we let Benny Boo 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 get married without his closest best brother of the bunch around, Viscount Anthony Bridgerton? And speaking of Jonathan Bailey, he's going to have a cameo in Heartstopper season 3, which I'm happy to share. I will be reviewing on my channel like I did with season 2, so keep an eye out for that in the coming weeks whenever the embargo lifts. But for now, back to Bridgerton. Why are you posting this enormous list of confirmed characters with the added jump scare of Portia Featherington being present in season 4 when she already sucked up screen time away from the Sharma family matriarch, Mary Sharma, and now you might want to do the same thing to Sophie Baek and her wicked stepfamily? Oh no.
I am being very fucking positive.
A reminder, though, to not send hate to actors and actresses who work on this show, or just any show for that matter, for the things that their characters do and the decisions that are made above them in the production hierarchy. Maybe some companies in Hollywood nowadays are incapable of issuing statements condemning hate against their actors, but I will take the time to say some of the things that they will not. Don't be hateful to working actors. The majority of union members of SAG and Equity do not live in mansions. They are not nearly as rich and insulated as you might think they are. Anyway, yes, we need Simone Ashley in season 4. We don't need Portia, and we don't need the Cowpers, who are thankfully nowhere to be seen on this list of names. Goodbye and good riddance. We just need to focus first and foremost on Sophie Baek, the Bridgerton family, and Sophie's wicked stepfamily. Everything else comes after these people for season season 4, and Kathani Sharma Bridgerton is part of this top priority because she is a member of the Bridgerton family. Now, if Simone, let's say, has other jobs that she's contracted to, the details of which might not be fully known to the public or lower tier members of the press like myself, they might still have to do negotiations and coordinations of scheduling of how to bring Simone in, and if those things have not been worked out yet, I would not expect to see her officially announced until afterwards, but I wouldn't know the details of that either way. If you are deep in the social media ecosystem of fandemonium panic and you feel like you would like to do something because you're feeling restless about the topic, my best recommendation to you would be to coordinate a hashtag campaign in an effort to try to make her trend, and perhaps you would tag the official relevant accounts in the process. If you've watched my video about Benedict Bridgerton's terrible season 3 material, which I released during that first initial embargo lift for season 3 reviews, you should have seen my interview with professional screenwriter Josh Levy, and he explained far better than I can details about the importance of having social media metrics that do get looked at and referenced in meetings for Netflix. If you do a hashtag campaign, perhaps you could generate measurable data of the demand for Kate Sharma and Simone Ashley. Let me be very clear here, though. I am not going to promise you a result if you were to do that, because none of these things are my decision, but it's merely a suggestion if you feel like you need to take action in some way so you can feel as though you did all that you could to try to help to increase the likelihood of Kathani Sharma being in season 4. That's my best recommendation. I have no idea if it will work. And speaking of taking action and Pan-Asian solidarity, Palestine is in Asia, and as always, all donation links for Palestine are listed in the description box. By the way, right after Yerin Ha was announced, and this was during the first announcement, not the Netflix one, when I looked at her account to see if we had any overlaps in the accounts that we were following, the only two that we had in common at the time were Plessia and Motaz, who are two Palestinian journalists, and we love to see her supporting them. Now we have more overlaps in follows, though, including Simone Ashley, and I love that as well because yes, the Pan-Asian Collective demands that Sophie Baek and Kathani Sharma interact and have scenes together. One other thing I would have to say that has a slightly critical flavor and tone is we also are going to need a casting announcement for Sophie's father. Even if he only pops up for one episode, I want to see this devil with my own eyes. That man is the genesis of Sophie's trauma. If he had not married Araminta, aka Joanne, and allowed her to run amok, abusing Sophie with zero intervention, things would be very different for Sophie Baek. Sophie would have had far less trauma in her upbringing. And the final bit of finger wagging I will do for today is yet another reminder to not send hate to the actors for any of the nefarious things their characters will probably be doing in season 4. I'm fairly certain that I have seen Katie Leung speak out at one point or another about receiving racist harassment because of what her character in the Harrison Pentagram film series did. And no, I will not be saying her character's name from that series in this or any other video because that is a racist nonsense name. I don't have much to say right now about the full list of names that have been announced for casting thus far, partially because I'm pressed for time, but one small tidbit I will say is that I'm hoping, now that Penelope and Colin are married, that whenever they pop up in family scenes, they can have some cute, fluffy moments, because I did not get enough of those in their season. It was too much melodrama. I just want to see people happy in love. So now that all that drama is over and done with, please let Nicola and Luke Newton play the cute, fluffy things, because I know they can do it if you actually give them material that is in that tone. Also, I loved that Julie Andrews is still here doing voiceovers. Yes, Genovia, the land I call my home. Exactly. Forever will your banner wave. Keep her booked and busy. Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way. But let's get more fully into these new casting announcements, shall we? Katie Leung will be playing Araminta Gun, which is a change from the book where the surname had been Gunningworth. Araminta, aka Joanne, is Sophie's wicked stepmother. Twice married and twice widowed, Araminta has 2 girls debuting on the Marriage Mart this season and is feeling the pressure to get at least one of them married off. Fabulous, discerning, and blunt, Araminta does not respond well when anything or anyone threatens her standing in society. I was surprised to see Katie cast to play a stepmother because she's so young. I was expecting someone, I don't know, at least in their mid to late 40s, but more likely someone in their 50s. Katie is only 8 years older than Yerin, so I was not expecting the age gap between those two characters to be that small. Nevertheless, I am happy to see Katie booked and busy, and to all the Scots in my comments who were upset that the show was doing Scottish erasure by refusing to let John and Michaela have Scottish accents, even if Katie ends up doing an English accent on the show. Katie is Scottish, which means the global press tour will have her treating our ears to the dulcet sounds of a Scottish accent. Everyone say thank you, Katie.
Do you know what that was? That was the Scottish vacuum of charm. That was...
Next up, we have Michelle Mao as Rosamund Li, another surname change for Sophie's stepsisters. If you were wondering, they have a different surname from their mother because their mother took the surname of her latest husband, but they have kept the one that they had from whichever of her previous husbands is their birth father. Beautiful, vain, and eager to please her mother, Rosamund is Araminta's eldest daughter and most prized possession. Rosamund sets her sights on Benedict Bridgerton this season and is determined to get what she wants. Now, some people seem to be very much overreacting to Rosamund's description. You are not going to harass her the way you harassed Charitra for playing better material on the show than the absolutely non-existent nothing burger Edwina had in that book. I do not want to see these gorgeous Asian women getting booked on this show and then be given nothing to do. Let Rosamund try to get Benedict. We already know she's going to fail. We have decades, if not centuries, of Cinderella stories, and guess what?
Oh, wait. Double fucking newsflash.
The wicked stepsister never gets the man.
You don't even exist to me!
Haven't you seen Ever After and the pure comedy of the wicked blonde stepsister trying to get the prince? She tried to get this man to hand feed her food directly into her mouth. Go ahead and let Rosamund try it. She doesn't know she's in her flop era and that Sophie Baek will be the one to emerge victorious and married to Monsieur Capybara. Maybe you're simply confused by seeing this much Asian beauty in one place, so you're just assuming they all have to get along, but actually, when you're truly inclusive, you will have Asian women playing the heroes and the villains of the story. Michelle knows she's entering her villain era, and I, for one, think we should celebrate that. Be the best wicked stepsister to ever wicked stepsister. We are seated and ready to watch. Next up, Isabella Wei as Posy. This is the stepsister who gets a redemption arc. This is the Melanie Linsky of the two. And I'm hoping they will let her have some comedy because let's get into this character description. Rosamund's younger sister, the much kinder Posy, is also debuting this year, but her mother rarely puts the spotlight on Posy, as her chatty, overly friendly demeanor often has her putting her foot in her mouth. Yes, give me comedy queen Posy saying some foolish, silly things, but make it funny. Don't make it painfully uncomfortable. When I would have to rewatch episodes of season 3 while I was doing coverage of it, I always had to fast forward through Penelope being unable to speak to men at the time because it wasn't funny. It was just painful to watch. And I'm here to have fun. We already know there will be angst and pain because Araminta is abusive and this story is for survivors. So just let me have this. Let me have Posy being funny. Also, a quick sidebar. Isabella Wei was in The Crow 2024, a film that was my hyperfixation for the entirety of my August. I was that film's one and only hype girl because I felt it in my bones early on that it was going to be for the romance girlies. I came so close to being allowed to get more access to do coverage of that film, and then it fell through at the last minute. I don't want to talk about that, but it put me on a rampage to work even harder with my channel because, like every Eastern cultured person, failure motivates me. Subscribe to my channel. We're now only about 500 people away from 30k subscribers. Let's go. My cat Kimiko wants to show off a new shirt. So now I have the option to name drop and reference The Crow every time we talk about Posy on here. Thank you, Isabella. I had a good time with that movie. It had a tragic love story, Enya in the soundtrack, and a connection to my favorite Hollywood Nepo family, the Houstons. Legend after legend after legend. Imagine being Danny Houston. You're in The Crow 2024. Your father is the legendary John Huston, who loudly stuck up his middle fingers to Hollywood's complicity in McCarthyism. Your sister is Morticia Addams, and your nephew is Domenico De Soleil from Ridley Scott's House of Gucci.
Gucci is a rare animal. It must be protected.
Sorry, I got pulled into pieces by my hyperfixations. I've now reassembled myself. Anyway, if The Crow 2024 has one fan, it's me. So, seeing an alumni of that now get booked for Bridgerton Season 4, the Benophie season. Yeah, the synchronicity between me and this season, it's synchronizing. Now let's move on to the main event. Yerin Ha and Luke Thompson serving chemistry on chemistry on chemistry. And forgive me if I don't get as long-winded as I might like to about this, but I need to get this video finished before this weekend because Halle Berry has new children to protect in a new movie, Never Let Go, and obviously I'm going to need to watch that and most likely probably review that on my channel as well. I do enjoy a good Halle Berry cinematic banger. I didn't see her last movie though because Mark Wahlberg was in it and I'm Asian.
Not a joke, just a fact.
Benophie era is upon us. Where do we even begin? If I give you every single thought in my head, this video will never end, so let me try to focus on just a few of the highlights. Luke Thompson welcoming Yerin with a tall hug. Series newcomer Ha has enjoyed the playful, freeing, therapeutic feeling of preparing for filming alongside Thompson. The pair first met during a dinner at showrunner Jess Brunel's home. I remember Luke stood there with arms wide open, just ready for an embrace, Ha tells Tadum. That was the moment I was like, okay, I don't need to stress about these little things now. I can just genuinely focus on the on-screen connection with him. This makes me so happy to read because even though you can find stories throughout a century of film history of co-stars playing a believable romance, even though they didn't get along in real life, I would much rather have these two be able to work together in a way that is harmonious. The way that these two characters have to open up to one another, presuming that their love story will be fairly close to the source material, of course, it would be significantly easier as an actress new to this show to be able to rip yourself open and dig into the places you have to go to play the painful parts of Sophie's story, and even the joyful parts for that matter. Having to get up close and personal and intimate the way Benedict and Sophie are in this story, that would be so much more stressful to do if your scene partner is unfriendly and unwelcoming. Now, I want to be incredibly clear that I now try very hard to not form parasocial attachments to actors, because how many times do people have to expose themselves as being unkind, abusive, as a person on the wrong side of history, as a person who wants to eat other people? How many times do public figures have to prove they're not meant to be placed on pedestals before we learn? That's why you're probably going to hear me use the word seems a lot in my coverage of this, because I don't know these people and I don't want to claim that I do. I will simply say that it seems like Luke Thompson is a nice co-worker, and I am hopeful that this will bode really well for the journey he and Yerin are going to go on together in production for the next year, give or take a few months, of course. If you've ever been in an acting class, I'm assuming you already know this, but it's a lot easier to work on a scene with someone that you get along with, that you're comfortable having a creative dialogue with, someone you can bounce ideas off of. I'm optimistic, not only from this one quote, but the other quotes that seem to suggest a positive working relationship between the two of them. What can we expect from Benedict and Sophie this season? Luke Thompson. I think the main thing we can expect is a really nice mix of fairy tale and reality. We've got this fairy tale love story, yes, but it's also got the Bridgerton element of trying to tether that story to some sort of reality as well. So we'll see how that pans out. Yerin Ha. You can expect this emotional tug of war, this kind of push and pull between what their hearts desire and what society desires for them. Luke Thompson. Oh, that is so much better than what I said. Both laugh. Again, we get the impression that they get on really well, and this laughter is so important to me. We had multiple pictures from this first photo shoot they did where they're laughing with each other, and I already talked about this in my previous Bridgerton season 4 video about the source material, where I had said that laughter could be Benophie's thing because of how significant a role it plays in their meet cute at the masquerade. And I had some ideas about how they could use that in really engaging ways because Luke Thompson is supremely skilled at comedy, and maybe Benedict could make Sophie laugh and it would help him on his journey of figuring out that Sophie is his long lost lady in silver. Just watch that video if you haven't already, so I don't have to go and repeat everything I've already said in excruciating detail. And in general, their ability and willingness to get up close and personal with one another for this photo shoot is promising to me, because if you can laugh for a photo shoot, you're either one, acting well enough to believably fake laugh for season 4, or 2, you're really making each other laugh, which means there is potential for you to have that magical alchemy as actors where you can slip in these extra slivers of improvised lines that would enhance the Benophie flavor, where you can do things like actually make each other laugh while filming, and then it could maybe end up in the final cut. And I will be watching all of it with a glass of Japanese plum wine. I need to see Benophie laughing together. For a few hours at least, Sophie could pretend that this gentleman could be her gentleman, and that from this moment on, her life would be changed forever. It was nothing but a dream, but it had been so terribly long since she'd let herself dream. Banishing all caution, she allowed him to lead her out of the ballroom. He walked quickly, even as he wove through the pulsing crowd, and she found herself laughing as she tripped along after him. "Why is it," he said, halting for a moment when they reached the hall outside the ballroom, "that you always seem to be laughing at me?" She laughed again. She couldn't help it. "I'm happy," she said with a helpless shrug. "I'm just so happy to be here. Sophie Baek, I will move everyone out of the way so that Monsieur Capybara has an unobstructed pathway to honor your being with his deeds and words." What are some words you'd use to describe their character arcs this season? Yerin Ha. The obvious one is roller coaster, but I'm going to say something new. Prismatic. And I'm using that as a metaphor for the character of Sophie for before she meets Benedict and after. Luke Thompson. And what does prismatic mean? Yerin Ha. It's like the property itself of the prism. Like when the light comes in and then it goes into a rainbow. Luke Thompson. Wow. That's a really beautiful scientific metaphor. I'm gonna have to leave it with that because that's just such a great one. Yerin Ha really said women in STEM. Yerin Ha said romance girlies go into the world and do science. I'm fully on board for an entire global press tour of Yerin giving extremely well thought out, highly articulate answers, and Luke Thompson going, "Yeah, what she said." And putting aside the topic of analysis, of arguing one's point, can I just co-sign all of the emotional outbursts I've observed on social media about the height difference between these two, about Yerin wearing giant platform shoes and still being teeny tiny in comparison to her leading man. I'm not going to say that she's short because I am imposing my sense of normal onto the Western world. She and I are average height back in our motherlands. That's why Luke Thompson will be having the word tall attached to everything he does. He welcomed Yerin with a tall hug. He tall posed with Yerin for this photo shoot. See how you like it, having a hyphenate attached to everything you do. I am not a hyphenate. I am Japanese. That's the end of that sentence. My residential address is not my identity. Carrying on with this interview they did. Even after such an eventful season for Benedict last year, how does he continue to grow and evolve as a man? Ma'am, eventful? Benedict in season 3? Where was the eventful? Is the eventful in the room with us? You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. I'm not even going to read you Luke's answer. I'm assuming you've either already read it, and if you haven't, I will link both articles in the description box. Literally anything would be an improvement for Benedict after season 3. We have nowhere to go but up.
Riding up where?
Just up.
Yerin, what has it been like to join the Bridgerton cast and crew family? Yerin Ha. I don't think there are enough words in the dictionary to describe what it's like joining the family, but I'm just very, very grateful, and everyone's been so welcoming with open arms. It's been a lovely experience so far. Luke Thompson. And it's yours now too. Yerin Ha. Ours. It's our family. I could cry reading this. I'm giving away spoilers for something I was already going to talk about in what was originally planned as my next video, but I got all weepy when I began reading Sophie's book because of that quote in the prologue where she's hoping that her new stepmother will love her, and teeny tiny baby Sophie was hoping that they would become a real family, because I immediately had this Raven Baxter vision of Sophie at the end of the story that I had not read yet, just knowing that she was going to get married to Benedict and become part of the Bridgerton family, which in seasons 1 and 2 felt like a real family with all the love and playful bickering and banter that is so much fun to watch.
I take it the two of you? No?
Do not look at me.
Have you ever visited a farm?
And this quote feels like a good omen to segue them going into production. It's not the first time I've seen or heard cast members from the Bridgerton cast saying that they feel like a real family, the actors who play family members. And I'm going to keep my healthy skepticism on. No parasocial attachments to actors, but it makes me hopeful that they will work well with one another in the coming months to tell a really beautiful story. I also just want to put this out into the universe. Not that I believe for 1 second that Yerin Ha will ever see this video, but I am telling you now, Yerin, if they try to put more misery in your story than is necessary to tell Sophie Baek's truth, the Pan-Asian Collective gives you permission to say on our behalf that we want to see fluffy, loving connections between Sophie and the entirety of the Bridgerton family. And Asia is the largest continent in the world, so if you need to do some quick maths for the people writing the checks, it would be good business to make us happy. Over on my Patreon, we've actually started rewatching Sense8, and I'm so taken aback going back into that world that I love so much because the Wachowskis, they are total romance girlies. That show will just do so many things to just let the characters in that cluster luxuriate in their love for one another. If any of them are in trouble, someone comes running, no questions asked. Even when they don't fully understand what's going on with being a Sense8 that's part of a cluster, they just show up and help. Oh, you need someone to lie on your behalf? You need someone to do crime for you, to do violence? You need someone to fight the police? I'm here, I'm ready, come catch these hands. You want to cry and reflect about the trauma you never open up about? I'm here to listen and show you love. Do you Bridgerton writers need a reference? Sense8. Bridgerton fans don't expect the amount of fight choreography and computer hacking and stunt driving of that show, but the romance and found family and overwhelming all-consuming feelings of love? Yeah, Sense8. That's on the mood board. We want that. I love that Yerin was with her mother back in Korea when she got the call that she booked Sophie. And I love that she and Luke keep talking about all of the dance rehearsals they've been doing. I'm so enormously curious about what songs they'll have for Benophie to dance to. I know someone had written to me somewhere online saying that Benedict was supposed to have a number to Nelly Furtado's Promiscuous in season 3, which initially I was upset to hear because I love that song so much. But now I don't care anymore because season 3 was a nothing burger for him, so let's not waste such a quality banger on his nothing burger season. Thank you. I'm not an expert on K-pop, but I will throw one K-pop song out there. Not because I think they will use it on the show, but because I love this song, and even if they don't use it, all of you can play it amongst yourselves and maybe you will enjoy it. It's called Free Somebody by Luna. I think it's perfectly worthy to be on your joyful Benophie playlists that you will be streaming to pass the time for the next 2 years. Funny story about this song, actually. I've heard part of the demo track for this song. This is kind of exposing myself a bit. It's another life. It's part of my past that I don't really like to revisit. But anyway, I was in Sweden and I was acquainted with some of the songwriters who wrote this track with the millennial icon, JoJo. And yeah, the demo track more or less sounds exactly like the Luna version, except without Luna's vocals. It's just JoJo singing on the track in English lyrics. Random thing from my past, not that interesting, but there you have it. It's a joyful, romantic K-pop track that you can put on and imagine a dancing Benophie fan cam. Let me know if you ever want to brainstorm Benophie songs because my music taste oftentimes is formed by movies, which is why when I think of Sophie going to the masquerade, I immediately think of Baz Luhrmann's Great Gatsby film because I'm obsessed with how music is part of Baz's artistic language in filmmaking. If I say too much, I'm going to be repeating things I already went over in my Elvis video essay, but anyway, a little party never killed nobody. Just one night's all we got. Right here, right now is all we got. Are those lyrics not a copy-paste of Benophie's vibe at the masquerade? Sophie's all, tonight I am transformed, tomorrow I shall disappear. And Benedict's all, then we must pack a lifetime into this very night. If the vibe is romance, Baz Luhrmann will always deliver. This is what happens when you have the taste in filmmakers that I do. A lot of these artists take so long to make new art that at this point I'm used to waiting. I know people are unhappy with having to wait 2 years for Benophie's season, but I'm covered because next year I have James Cameron's Avatar 3, and then the year after that is Benophie.
That's right. You're mine.
The one last question I have for you, the audience, that is going to follow along with me while I continue to make Bridgerton Season 4 videos, among all the other film reviews, of course, that I will be doing here on my channel. I have a very specific example in mind for B-roll footage of a height difference couple in a different work of fiction that I've thought about using to possibly explain some of what I think would be fun to see for Benophie in Season 4, but I don't know whether or not I should show it because one of the actors in that pairing got revealed to be really gross. That's the polite way of putting it. So theoretically speaking, would you still be open to me using that footage? Maybe I could cover that person's face and that would be my way of signaling that I do not co-sign that person. Just let me know. I don't want to say who it is right now. If it's going to be too much of a weird vibe, I might just do that as a Patreon video so that no one in the general casual audience has to wonder whether or not I endorse them when I don't. You know what? Maybe I should just do that as a Patreon video. Either way, lots of Benophie videos are coming. I'm more than long-winded enough to maintain a recurring Benophie presence for the next 2 years. And if Luke Thompson wants to drop hints about swimming unclothed in a lake, just as Benedict did in that book, oh, I'm going to sit back and let him speak.
Come in. Take your pants off.